of capital is at stake here.
Even, I won't name the dispensary, but one of the dispensaries that did get the state approval in Ann Arbor, they're even scared of everything that they do right now. I mean, they're actually, there's a fear that runs through them because they want to make sure that they can keep going forward, but they're, afraid of, completing the final step. So because there's no labs that are licensed yet, so it's just everybody's like in this unusual climate right now, in a kind of like a wait and see.
Sure.
I think that's what we see around us.
Sure. Well, I do think it's going to be a market.
It seems like there's a bit of a shakedown that seems to be going on too. With congratulations on the case that you got dismissed yesterday, Michael. By the way.
Thank you.
But there seems to be a shakedown going on. I feel like they're utilizing this licensing process as a way to really dig deep and use this as more of an investigatory approach.
Oh, it's a witch hunt.
To really weed out,
Exactly. Corruption.
no pun intended, what they don't want to be representing this industry going forward. And it just makes me very interested to see, especially with the recreational question coming up on the ballot, how this is going to transition moving forward. I think that we're going to see a lot of stuff happening with DUIs. People, they're going to be looking for this another way.
That's
what I think.
No,
that's what I hear a lot of.
Well, I think I agree with that. I think sometimes in our law firm, when people are interested in acquiring a license or getting involved, sometimes the best advice we can give them is that they probably shouldn't, or we do some qualifying beforehand so that there's no things that come up that are going to put them in jeopardy. And there's been some mistakes that have made with their facilities, things that they didn't know or think were going to be counted against them. But I would agree with you that is the appearance that's taking place. And the support for that is that there's a lot of information that has to be disclosed. It's unclear in terms of how that is going to be interpreted if people are truly disclosing and being honest about it and what impact it's going to have. And the way that the system is set up, primarily as we can see, long time frames. Lots of time in between application, screening process, getting a hearing, passing. Like there's a lot of applications still pending. So what does this do? This is what you call the government red tape that lingers and drags things out so that here comes the next year, and to stay in position, you got to ante up for the regulatory fee. Right? It's all about that
right.
now. You don't even have your license, but in order to even stay in position, you're going to have to. So it is now about that. You're in the bureaucratic red tape that's moving very slow. They don't have any rules that are written. The existing rules that aren't written expire, and something else is going to develop from that. Who knows what? And whether or not those that were created from the emergency rules to prevent a state of emergency from happening in Michigan so patients could get safe access to cannabis may shut them down, which makes no sense at all. And I can have emergency rules for the sake of it preventing an emergency from happening.
They're not going to shut them down.
Okay, I don't think so either. But with that being said, how do we... how does any of this make sense? That's the real question. And the point I was going to make is not only is the concern of you're on a list, you're open to inspection, it's supposed to be done in a civilized, licensing way, not criminal, but that's the way that you don't know yet. There's not that trust that's built, but also the constraints, let's say the barrier to get in, the resources that are required, the time frame that's being charted out, the timeline here for someone that wants to get in, it's going to require not just substantial investment, but it's also being able to sustain it with no guarantees that it's going to play itself out yet, because we still have a lot of adjustments to take place. The marketplace for whatever is going to be sold at any of these places is going to be not close to the existing organic market that currently exists or has existed in the past, or that I would say exists through caregivers. So there's going to be some, And,
Are you suggesting this isn't organic?
I'm suggesting that Roman made the comment that there's a lot of switching around. I call it like transactional. I think you'll see a lot of this. You'll see like people that try to get in, have their investment, and if they're not running it under the, it's a challenged marketplace for a lot of reasons. It's a new marketplace which creates a lot of opportunities. But a lot of them are outside of the control of the business owner because it's such a highly regulated, and no matter how great you are, it may not matter. And if you don't have the resources to sustain it, it won't matter. And that's what I'm suggesting is going to bring about a lot of transactions with these licenses, as Roman's suggesting. People may just want to sell and get out, Give me my value.
Oh, there's going to be plenty of that.
Okay, so.
But that's
they're going to make it.
Yeah, I mean, personally in Ann Arbor, I mean, I even know of places right now that are hoping to just go through the licensure process because they already have a buyer lined up out of state. Yeah. So, X buyer out of state has promised them, so much money once the license is in, pending status or approval status. And, they're just going to flip this stuff to the highest bidder. So I think there's a lot of carpetbaggers that are just kind of sitting on the phrase, and they're going to, leap in when the time is right. Now, I don't think that's, the right thing to do. I think, if we had anything that resembled the organic market that we have now, it would be at least with Michiganders controlling it and running it. But, I don't think that's going to end up being the case with, the proxy shareholders and the agents and the management companies and, all of these third-party setups that essentially will allow people to control it from a certain aspect. But, in my opinion, everybody is just lining up right now to be regulated, and that comes with, 24/7 unfettered access by the police department. So if people feel like this is the right move in order to advance the industry, then I'm sure it will work itself out that way. But honestly, I feel this is a Trojan horse, and this is a trap right now, so that patients are pigeonholed into retail dispensaries where they have to pay these taxed these high taxes on the medicine. And at the same time, you have the Michigan State Police lobbying to get rid of caregivers or sunset them, as they put it nicely. And
there's nothing nice about that term.
Exactly, yeah. So, or at least the thought of it being that way is ridiculous, especially when the federal government has taken the stance that they have. So, I think that we're headed for disaster with the way that it's currently going. I think a lot of people are going to lose a lot of money. They're going to lose their interest in their businesses. And, in the end, the patients are going to suffer. They're going to end up paying retail tax on a product that, could be provided to them organically by caregivers. And, I think, if anything, caregivers need to start lobbying for more patients and being able to have more rights. Because, I know plenty of caregivers who can take care of 5 people and a family. So I know that there's plenty of people out there who want to help. And that's what it's all about. So, the day they start dissecting the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act and removing caregivers from the equation is the day that the state has monopolized it.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
Well, yeah, that's what they want to happen.
And it's what they said they were going to do during this whole process, and that's why you had so many people fall off of the MMFLA bandwagon when it started to fundamentally change. And, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, Roman. That's exactly what's going to happen. They are going to lobby to eliminate the caregivers, if not the act entirely. And they're going to say, especially after November, after recreational's passed, you don't need a medical.
You don't need it. What do you need it for? That's exactly what they're going to say.
And they're going to say it's unneeded bureaucracy, it's costly, blah, blah,
and they've always
blah.
asserted our caregivers were drug dealers anyway.
Oh, yeah.
They've always asserted that, so...
So that's one of the reasons it's so important people get out and vote. I mean, it's not in the bag.
It's Tuesday. Don't wait until November. Make sure you get out on Tuesday, because candidates who are going to fall into the ballot in November, we have to make sure that we guide that. That's going to make all the difference for us in November, because even if we legalize it, we still have to make sure friendly people are in office. because we know they'll fuck with it.
Oh, exactly. And patients deserve to be able to get the medicine.
Guys, take it from us. I mean, we were victims in Montana when Montana's legislature decided to repeal their medical marijuana initiative, and they had to do it with a supermajority, and they did it with a Republican majority. But we became victims of that when we lived and ran our business out in Montana. We worked with physicians out there to provide certifications, just as First Natural Wellness does here, except I happen to be from Ann Arbor, Michigan, so it just made more sense to come back here when they repealed the law there. But, it hit us like a ton of bricks, and honestly, nobody saw it coming. Well, nobody believed it was coming, I guess. There were plenty of people who discussed it, talked about it, knew that it could happen, but nobody ever thought it really would happen. And then, they were actually effective. The day that they repealed the law in Montana, there were 27 coordinated raids by the DEA where they simultaneously hit multiple storefronts at the same time across the state. We had alerts going off. There were phones going off everywhere about, this place getting raided and this place getting raided, and all of this was happening at the same time at around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the day that they repealed the law. At that point in time, we were working with doctors to provide certifications to patients across the state of Montana. And in the process, we were constantly looking at the numbers. The state would reveal how many patients were registered, how many caregivers were registered, et cetera. At that point in time, when they repealed the law, we had over 130,000 registered patients in Montana, and the caregiver population was somewhere around 20 to 22,000. And within 6 months of them repealing the law, the patient population dropped to 12,000, and the caregiver population virtually disappeared. The way that they wrote so when they repealed the law, they rewrote it and kind of reestablished it after there was a lot of public outcry. And it took them some time to do that, but they put in their blend of what they wanted. And, at that point, they literally wrote into the law that in order to be a caregiver for a patient that was registered in Montana, you had to be defined as kin. And they defined kin in the law to mean brother or sister, mother or father, and that was it. So if you had a sick grandparent, you couldn't be their caregiver under Montana law at that point. So that's why the patient population dwindled to 12,000 from 130,000. And Montana doesn't have that big of a population. We're talking less than 1 million people. So, to see those numbers drastically decrease so quickly really was a testament of what these, nasty politicians can do, to people, even when the voters voted it in. That was a voter-approved initiative. So we got to be conscious of that. And, honestly, from our perspective, they could do it again here in Michigan, and we don't want to see that happen.
People better get busy then. I'm just telling you, the Michigan State Police are out there, and they want nothing more than people to stop growing marijuana in homes. Period. They've said it over and over.
That's why we got to vote for Dana Nessel, guys. That's why Dana Nessel has to be our candidate and our elected Attorney General.
Dana's definitely won, but the local elections are certainly just as important, and people need to make sure that they understand who to vote for in their districts. Go talk to these people. They have coffee hours. They are more often than not approachable, and let them know what's important to you, because if you don't, they may just make assumptions that go against your best interests. And if we
here in Ann Arbor, Jeff Irwin for state senate, just saying.
Definitely.
Sorry to
Jeff
interrupt
Irwin.
you.
No, absolutely. Jeff
Got to plug Jeff Irwin.
Jeff has been probably certainly my personal favorite advocate in Lansing. He's always had our backs.
Nobody better than Jeff.
Yeah.
Another one that's real.
That's
Can you
right.
believe
Yeah.
it?
That's right.
100% real Jeff for sure.
All right.
Well, I have to sign out, but it was great chatting with you guys. I hope we can see you out there next Thursday. You guys have a wonderful night. Roman's saying bye to you.
Love plenty green trees. Love you guys.
Thank you, Roman. We'll see you on Thursday. Have a great night.
Sounds great. See you there.